Welcome. I'm Elinor Silverstein, and I am here with Linda Tellington-Jones and Sandy Rakowitz, and we are here in Hawaii, and we're meeting with Catherine and Kira from Mexico, and they have an organization called Cor-Inte. And I would like for you to describe what that even means in Spanish, but what you do is you're really helping people in Mexico who live in a world of trauma, and that's millions of people, as you were describing to us. And what a gift that you are taking HeartMath and now here today to learn T-Touch from Linda, the creator of T-Touch, and being able to use some of our very basic, easy moves so that you can go out there into the field and work with members of society to help them. Because what you sometimes talk about is that there is so much violence, and where does violence come from? And when it's coming from the seat of stress, then when you're helping to teach them to lower their stress levels, that can helpfully lower the level of violence and therefore trauma, and create the beginning of healing in the whole society. And that is a gift. So welcome, Catherine and Kira, very much. And I see you also have a guest with you.
Yes, this is Benny. She's our social worker, and she is really the one who brings our programs into the community, highest risk areas. Some of these communities don't even have paved access, so their streets are made out of just, full of dust, and she would walk there, and she would sometimes take 2, 3, 4 hours just to get to a community and give one of these workshops. So she's really wonderful, and it'll be really wonderful for her to have this tool as well.
Beautiful. What we would like to show you actually is how what we call the Magic 3 Tellington T-Touches. This is from a collection of more than 20 various touches that we do, but these are the touches that we have been using to reduce trauma and stress. And actually, in cases of injuries or accidents, when you talk about street fighting and all that goes on in the of that, one of the first things that we teach is work with the ears that we've been doing for many, many years. And you put one thumb behind the earlobe, fold the forefinger, do a circle and a slide, slightly upward, slide with the side of, just sliding with the side of your finger. So I put it thumb behind here and slide slightly upward. Then I go in this little valley of the ear here, this little hump, and then slide upward. Then I go a little higher and then to the very top. So you're actually engaging the entire ear, and I'm doing a little stretch out, just a little slight stretch to the outside. And I repeat this. In the case of a person who is in shock, whether it's a mental, emotional, or physical shock, it works for all of them. And we have hundreds and hundreds of cases showing that you can bring a person out of shock or keep them out of shock from doing this. And the thing is, if you don't, in the case of injury, if you don't move the head, you cannot hurt with this, is what we've had from just countless cases of this ear work. That's the way. And it also works in cases of children who are hungry, for instance, or where we've used it in Soweto in South Africa. We've shared this. I actually have a video of this done that we did there with the Johannesburg Film School, and showing for orphans and for the caregivers of orphans how you can use this in the case of, we did it there for AIDS, so that for when children don't have an appetite, that you can work with them in this way and encourage them to be able to eat.
So it's circle and slide going up.
Upward, circle and little slide up. Yeah,
And that the thumb is behind the ear, Linda?
The thumb behind there. Now, some people can turn the hand the other way. I can't. My arm doesn't work that way. But so for me, that's how I am able to best do it, because I slide. I'm trying to come onto the camera. It just, see, the thumb is behind, and I slide that forefinger slightly over that with the ear between it. So it's a circle because that just engages the whole brain. And then the slide. Just try it. And slightly upward, slightly upward. For me personally, if I go downward, that's a real downer. My nervous system does not like that. So the slight upward movement and the slight outward.
So Kira, do you see how you're doing a circle and a circle and a circle, and you're using
Yeah.
that? It's more the outside of the finger.
Okay.
Hold on. So
This way?
yeah,
Double.
that's what I meant. Yeah, do you see that?
Like this.
And,
Like this?
and see, Kira, you see how your hand
Mhm.
is like that? What if you
Yes.
like that?
You mean
Yeah.
that, meaning bring the elbow out
Yeah, okay.
and the wrist away.
And the wrist away.
Is this
Does that make a difference?
better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also just keep moving it up the ear rather than staying in one place, which is what you guys love to do the most. Go in there and do it quickly. So you little, and then you move your way up the ear,
Right.
up the ear, not staying in one place.
4 different slides.
But they have this finger bended.
Yeah.
This finger's bent, right? Kind of like that.
I go slow, circle, and then slide it back.
Like
Slide it back.
circle.
See, it's like they're going
Yeah,
like
like
that.
pinching.
You got that, Benny?
Mention this little
But
finger,
it's not like that. It's like.
Yeah, the rim of the
the inside,
inside.
not deep in the ear, just along.
No, just here. It's because my nails are a little bit long, so I think that's
Makes a
a
difference.
little bit harder, but I'll
Oh, well, don't
trim them.
how about bend your finger so that your fingernail's not even in your ear, that you're literally
Right. It's just the side.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah. And you go up, 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 up. Don't stay in the same area.
4 different spots. You feel the 1,
Right. Just alternate.
3, the 4, and then keep going back in the same.
About 4 times. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is about.
Except on a child's ear, it'll be 3 times. They're not large enough.
Okay.
They're smaller. Right.
Smaller ears.
So Linda, you said something interesting when Catherine was talking a little bit about the basis of the violence coming from stress, and then you said something else.
Well, what I said, that it's a basic premise that I have been following since 1981 when I did the Course in Miracles. And the basic premise is that aggression comes from a place of fear and is a cry for help.
Right.
And that really makes us deal differently with aggression, rather than meeting aggression with aggression, which we know doesn't work. It simply accept
Oops.
it. And so the second thing, besides the ear work, this is the shock for trauma, cold. By the way, that's really useful for you all to know. For in situations where it's a cold front or it's colder than usual, and people are really like suffering from the cold, working these ears will warm the entire body. And you just keep
Great.
really the practice.
It's cold here. You're right on the subject.
And so you can bring, we have many cases of bringing people out of hypothermia. And the beauty is that they can do it themselves. That's the important part. That's what we want people to know and to learn. And in this situation that we're in the world right now, the level of trauma that we are dealing with everywhere is great. And you can teach people to
Have to
do
turn.
this, you know, and if they're tired, but they have to keep going. It's another thing. You work these ears.
Can you hear us?
Oh, we suddenly lost your voice.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what happened?
I muted because my husband's coming and he starts talking because he doesn't know we're on a call.
Oh, okay.
great.
Hi, husband.
There's Aaron. Aaron, say hi.
Hi, Erin.
Estamos en una conferencia.
Pon
¿no?
tu cara.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Aloha.
Hola.
Están in Hawaii. He doesn't speak English, so he can just listen in.
You can watch it.
Lo están grabando.
So what's another touch?
So let's just see if we have any more questions about the ear.
Oh, okay.
And think of other situations, because cold, hunger,
Okay.
fear, just a level of
Mhm.
overwhelm. Shock is the big, one of the big things to keep a person out of shock or bring them out of shock. When they're in any shocking situation, observing something, hearing about something, putting them into that place of trauma, teach them to work their ears. And absolute grief.
Can it be used as a basic, just self-care process to, keep the system going back into balance, even though there aren't these extreme situations? Just, like a habit, just like activating heart coherence is a habit, hopefully.
It is. It's just something for self-care, because in the ear are connections to
Like for maintenance.
For what? For maintenance, yes, absolute maintenance. Yeah. A basic immune security, because in the ear, again, you have to realize that the reason the ear works like it does are connections to the entire body. So if we can't work anywhere else on the body, you can
Good.
work your ears.
Is there a recommended amount of time to be doing this? A suggested?
Good.
Okay.
That's,
Good.
and when they have a traumatic situation, do it until they feel okay.
Okay.
There's no recommended time. That is up to the individual.
Up to the person. Excellent.
Well, that is the point, and it's really important when, in the case of physical injury, which we've had a lot of cases of that, when people get in fights. This is one of the things that we have some interesting cases over the years. When they are injured, you help to regulate the whole system, to bring them into a state of where the body can deal more effectively with whatever is going on.
Listen, I'll tell you, a couple days ago before I came over here, I was working really hard and I was exhausted. I was tired. And so I just sat there and started to do a few minutes. That's it. That's it. 1 minute of the ear work on both ears. And my colleague looked at me and said, oh, because I had taught her what it was. And I go, and now I'm okay. Let's go. Keep working.
Awesome.
So that's
Great.
Physical, mental, emotional exhaustion. It works for all of it. So another one of the basic touches that we have been teaching for many, many years is it's actually movement of the tissue anywhere on the body, actually, in one circle and a quarter, and a little lift. So you imagine the face of a clock here so that you can get the movement. So you have 6, right, 9, 12, 3. You put one hand lightly over the other in whatever way is comfortable for you. For some people, it's actually folded back, and one hand over lightly, and the other, it's lightly cocked. And take a deep breath and just imagine moving around the face of a clock. So if you can imagine those numbers, it helps to get you and activate the logical part of the brain. When you're in a state of trauma or stress, or we've had people who couldn't go out of the house, they were so stressed. And if they just start moving this 1 circle and a quarter, moving the tissue, and try the other direction, see which way feels best to you. because one way will be better than the other. For me today, it's clockwise, it's to the right. And that can vary. So it's up to the individual. And it's like, take a deep breath and move around. Nice deep breath. And if you can get a person to smile, which is not necessarily easy when they're in the state of trauma, the reason is when you move those lips, it activates the serotonin, the feel-good hormone, and also it's said now to activate the oxytocin. And that is the hormone now called for hope and healing. So, you know, it may not be possible if a person is terrified. Just the big breath. And pay attention to the quality of the movement and the roundness of the circle, because when we're actually feeling the roundness, that helps us to get feeling. Because when the body is in a state of shock, you don't feel. It's like you feel out of the body, and by imagining that face of a clock on here again, the numbers activate the logical part of the brain, and we have this system of this method, and so we're getting the feeling, and the logic from the numbers and the method. And this is something that we have had such good success with many, many cases where one of our teachers now, one of our primary teachers in the UK, was so traumatized with agoraphobia, she could not go out of the house just from what went on around her. And she's one of our main teachers now, going all over the UK because of Marie Miller. That's one of the cases that we have. But we have many, and you know, you've been teaching it, Elinor, in your medical class. Why don't you talk about that? Just to bring attention and bring a quality of acceptance. Not always so easy, but this is the physical, the somatic connection with the body.
And you know, it actually we found helps to lower blood pressure.
Okay.
And so, and it's part of that. So when you get that gliding of the skin, when you're gently gliding your skin over your connective tissue like this, then you're releasing oxytocin, and breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth is going to increase what we found to be nitric oxide receptor sites that actually open up the blood vessels. Not nitrous oxide, laughing gas, nitric oxide that the body so much needs, you know, like root vegetables give it to us. And who would have thought the heart hug gives it to us? They never would have thought of such a thing. And so it's huge because you're helping people to really come into that place, like you said, of acceptance. And, you know, we can do this not just with us, with children, with babies, with acid reflux, with babies, and with adults, and also with animals.
Right. Yeah. And what this whole thing of the bringing the place to the body, the cell, the being back to a place of balance. And you've had this experience, and we have many of our teachers who teach this around the world. And what they've found when they start a gathering, like when you're out there working under a tree with a group, you can just have them put one hand over the other, take this nice breath, you know, and we breathe in through the nose and this slow breath out through the lips, and just getting them to feel. And what we've been doing for many years is adding the HeartMath concept of gratitude. So you think of a place, some place that makes you happy, you know, and to send gratitude. So we've been adding that into it since I first signed up for a HeartMath course 20 years ago. And you can add that in and find something in your groups to share. What makes them happy?
You're kind of answering the question I had, which is when we teach quick coherence, this is kind of like a warm-up. So let's just get started, and then we go forward with the quick coherence technique.
And then maybe underneath it, You know, a lot of times when I teach my classes around the world, we'll start with it, or around the country. We'll start with
Uh-huh.
it. We sort of get it. It feels kind of good. And then we do a whole day of whatever, or we do an hour of other things, and then we end with it. And ooh, it's potent. It holds it.
Uh-huh.
And it's really interesting because when I first started, when I brought this out in my first book, I don't know, 15 years or so ago, and I was giving book signings, and I had a group in Virginia, and there were a couple of men there, and I thought, how are the men going to feel about this, doing it? And what I find, men are so grateful for this because it gives them an opportunity to feel themselves.
Interesting. And if we're working with a group and we can't have a lot of like individual feedback of, you know, one to one to one to one, and could we just suggest that they go clockwise and then counterclockwise, clockwise and counterclockwise? You know, if it's kind of a group that there's not like, well, which way do you feel better, to the left or to the right? Is it okay to go one way and then another way? I mean, does that work as kind of a universal?
What feels good, choose that way. Because if it goes the wrong way, it's not a good feeling. It really puts you out of balance.
Okay.
Regarding that, I might imagine that the right way would be the way that they do it on their own.
Spontaneously.
Spontaneously, we start doing it one way or the other.
And
Right?
so don't
Yeah.
tell them the way. Just
Okay, good.
pick your way. Make it simple. The simple.
Okay.
Right.
And
I would imagine that. No, sorry. I would imagine with what you said about oxytocin and the blood pressure and so on, that this would work for insomnia or sleep problems.
Yes, and what I do in that case is either the circle on the ear in a gentle slide, and or on the abdomen. You know, just putting one hand over on your belly and just like, it's really slow, and we do slow circles because the slow circles we know lowers the blood pressure, and instead of the fast ones. If a person is traumatized, I mean, somebody told me yesterday, wasn't it, you were doing them really fast, and that's what happens if somebody is like stressed. You don't do them slow, man. You just move it until you can then start to take a deep breath.
Of course.
And I was working with a friend of mine a number of years ago who really had some really shocking news, and she just could not get herself together. And she found that she could actually do the circle on her ear better than in that traumatized case, in that case, even than her chest. Because there are some people who don't feel safe touching their chest. And and it's really important to emphasize what Elinor said, the word gliding the tissue. Gliding the tissue, however you would say that. So it's not a push down and the body. It's how do we move that skin around slightly.
Got it.
I mean, I get excited about the physiology component. So I've got like a lot of things going through my head when I'm thinking of what's in that tissue and why that happens. So, and that's, you know, for another conversation if you ever want, but just know.
Oh yeah, sure.
The potency of it is beyond palpable. It's physiological, it's anatomical, it's biological, and it's biochemical. It's clear.
And I think it's worthwhile to know, like, for instance, the first study that we had done on this was a PhD study for measuring 168 soldiers who were afraid of injections. And a person who didn't know anything about this for 2 minutes just did the circles around the area of the inoculation. And it showed a significant reduction in blood pressure, pulse, and respiration, more than 17%. And that's why she was able to do her PhD based on that study.
Wow.
So then when you do it on, not the whole hand, so in the heart or on the tummy. But I saw you were using just a few fingers.
Whatever feels good. No, because we show different ways of using the hand, whatever is possible. It doesn't matter.
Oh.
I mean, you can take a person who doesn't have a hand.
Linda has many, many, many kinds of touches that are very specific. So as we have the palm of the hand, we have the pad closer to the tip, the sides, and that's for a whole educational process. So here she's giving you a good general.
And it's just whatever feels good. Let them play with it. See what works.
Will do.
Is there another touch you want to teach them?
Yes, the third one that we teach is what we call the mouth touch. And it's such in cases of anger, where a person wants to actually control their anger, this is something that they found really helpful if they can touch them. That is the difficulty. And so whatever part you can use, mostly people use the kind of the pads of the fingers, and however you want to do it. I've had some people take the lips between the thumb and forefinger and make a circle with it, and a little slide. It's whatever feels good. And this is where it's really great for children to control their own emotions. This is where we've seen a lot of use of it. People who are working with children who are in foster homes, and they teach them this because it's for self-regulation. Really helps. However you can work that.
Is it the circle in the quarter? The same?
Circle in the quarter.
And then Kira, you see how you're using one finger? Share.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting jealous. They want to play with you.
I'll do them all.
Well, that's really important because you can reach out and use
Okay.
your fingers.
Them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let people fool it. There's no right way.
Right.
Okay, so that means you could do more than one circle in the same place without moving around? Or it's best to try to move around?
When you just move in one spot, it becomes redundant and you don't feel it anymore. And the study that we did, the initial studies in 1984, what we found is if we just stay on one part, you do not get the same brainwave activation as if you're continually moving, because you have to stay present. If I just go like
Right.
you can go away. You don't have to think about what you're doing. This is a way of engaging the person in the process of what they're doing.
It's great for wrinkles.
How? That's your secret. I'm sure.
That's what this is.
Oh, really? All over.
Yeah, it's what we call the face.
That circle and a quarter and glide.
Right.
This is your little extra you get today.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So great. Yeah, and you hold it down and watch. It takes two hands, because the one hand just keeps the skin firm, and you do a circle, and then I hold with my left hand and slide up with my right. You don't want to push the skin up. You want to do a nice little slide. Oh, I love that.
And the thing I'd like to say is notice what you do with your pinky or your extra finger. If it tends to float up in the air and you're doing it very profile, you would have to have a cup of tea. It actually fires off extensors all the way up through the body. And so that's a mild way of putting fight and flight.
Okay, so relaxed hand.
Relaxed, soft hand. The hand is soft, and then it touches you softly. But it can even be straight, but it's not. You're not losing any of them off to the wind.
Okay.
And that's really important information, actually, because you don't
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Because right up to the neck.
course. Awesome.
Great.
It's called officially Tellington-TTOUCH.
Yeah.
And the T-touch
Yes.
is putting two T's together and touch. And it actually, that second T stands for trust. Because
Oh.
this is what happens when you start doing this, trusting in yourself, beginning to feel trust in the world around you.
Okay.
I looked on your website to see if there were any kind of documents, but I saw it was more like programs and schedules. We found you do have a book. The problem with bringing books to Mexico is sometimes a little difficult. Is there any, PDF or a shorter kind of summary version that
We need to do that for you.
that you have up your sleeve somewhere?
We'll do that for you because you really do need that. And if you look on my website, on the left, look at the list under studies, and there's
Okay.
a lot of studies
Okay.
there. And that's one of the things that Sandy is working on, because Sandy, sitting here with us, has been involved in many of these studies over the years that we've done with Robin Bernhardt. And that's what she's
Okay.
putting together now, because it's really helpful to have those. There are some
Great.
on the website under studies and research, but they're not all in one place, and that's what we need to have for you. So we do need to get some.
And you're saying also like a general synopsis,
Right.
like
Yes.
something that's fairly brief that gives a page or so of what we've just done. Is that what you're saying, asking for something similar?
Well, I was just wondering if you have anything which, any document. I mean, I didn't have anything especially in mind, but
Probably like a concise document that explains the basis of it.
There is a section under T-Touch for You on the menu bar.
Mhm.
Back here.
Yeah. Yes.
On the menu bar, there is a section that says T-Touch for You that does give some description. And some of the studies that Linda was talking about, most of the studies open with a little bit about Tellington-TTOUCH.
Oh, of course. Okay.
And the ones that I was doing are refer to EEG brainwave patterns. And so I know in those there is a little bit of a synopsis, and there are different
okay,
studies.
that sounds good. And Linda mentioned a video. Are there any you have on your website, or I mean, any material that kind of can like support us in feeling more and more and more and more comfortable and knowing
We should send you the video. I have a 2-hour video.
Awesome.
This is, I'll just read, this is an introduction to 300 case studies.
Oh, esa es la pantalla.
And these are just anecdotal, because we have way more studies than that are actually in a form, for a research form that was given to us by the University of Minnesota. But these are just written from people who actually did our work with animals and then applied these to people. So this introduction, T-Touch for You anecdotal evidence, for the past 15 years, and this is done in 2006, people from all over the world have been writing to Linda Tellington-Jones to share their experiences using the T-Touch techniques on themselves and other humans. This collection of testimonials bears witness to the unique quality of T-Touch that empowers people to act compassionately, to comfort, and to promote well-being in themselves and those around them. In the course of collecting, reading, formatting, and rereading these inspiring stories, the immense scope of the work became evident. People have successfully incorporated the technique and indeed its philosophy into every aspect of their lives as healthcare professionals, teachers, parents, grandparents, caregivers, animal lovers, spiritual seekers, and simple human beings trying to survive life's challenges with grace. T-Touch has the potential to alter the way we learn, teach, interact, and provide care. The possibilities are endless. The stories inspire questions and create opportunities to explore these possibilities. What can we learn from these experiences about the effects of T-Touch? How can we implement T-Touch into healthcare protocols, education curricula, child rearing practices, caregiving practices, and into personal growth and enrichment. How can we share TTOUCH with others for the greatest benefit? What other questions can we ask, and what questions can we discover? This collection lays the trail for an exciting new adventure in learning for researchers, professionals, and all curious individuals. It is a pleasure to be able to participate in the adventure. And we have, besides these are just from our practitioners working with animals. We have literally several thousand from a 3-year study in Austria, Germany,
Wow,
and
amazing.
Switzerland from a 3-year study that they.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice. One question comes to mind. I have a little 1-year-old granddaughter, and her mom's going to have to start leaving her to go to work. So we're all anticipating there may be a lot of crying, etc. With little babies that can't tell you which way feels best, do we just stick with the ear? What do you suggest?
Really good question. I mean, first of all, the gentlest possible contact. Really remember, this is not massage. The intention is actually making a connection at the wisdom, with the wisdom of the self. That is so important. And the gentlest connection you can make, the lightest connection that you can make with 1 1/4 circles. And we do this all over babies. And you watch the circle and 1/4, and
You go around their body.
no, well, I'm doing
Little
it
circle.
you can see it.
Yeah, but like in their arms, their hands.
On the arm, down the arm, and there's a massage for babies, but it's very different than when you actually very gently
Right.
put that skin in 1 1/4 circles. And I believe one of the reasons is to do this, we're really staying present, and all I have here is just I experience the wonder of that feeling, and that's what I'm reflecting back is the oneness of that being. And the mother, if he does this, instead of thinking, oh, that baby's going to cry, think, wait a minute, how can I give you, this little being, a sense of safety in yourself? And it's such a beautiful thing. We really should do a little TTOUCH thing for infants, because I've had, you mentioned acid reflux. I worked in a hospital clinic in Johannesburg, where every Wednesday mothers can bring their infants under 6 months to this nurse practitioner, and she was learning TTOUCH to teach the mothers. And one came in with acid reflux, and they're getting all kinds of medication, which creates all kinds of other problems. And just from doing this, the gentlest connection you can make that moves the tissue. That's what we call, actually, we have a whole system of pressures, and that's the lightest. It's not even a pressure, it's a contact. The lightest contact you can make to move that. And just think it's like a whisper touch, actually. Like that, you can clearly feel it all the way around 1 1/4. And what is beautiful from the studies that we did with the brainwave studies with Anna Wise from the Biofeedback Institute of Boulder. We did it in 1984, 85, and again in 2009, and that's the one that Sandy was involved in. You weren't in you weren't in the 80s, right? But you were. Elinor was there. She was there.
Pregnant.
Yeah.
With my adult son now.
Right. So that's how long we've been doing this. And what we found out that has kept me passionate about this for so many years is that as you reach out and move the tissue in this 1 1/4, that the person doing the TTOUCH gets as much benefit of the whole condition of the brain as the person being TTOUChed. And that is to calm the mother. 1 1/4. Just feel yourself. Feel the beauty. It's very exciting to be able to share this with you. It's a really, this is our desire. The reason we 3 are sitting here, we're interested in getting this out to the world for people who are making a difference and giving their care to others.
We very much appreciate it. Benny had a question. She is asking, is there any specific indications for people who are very violent? Because sometimes they do want to stop being violent. So what do you suggest? Is it the ear? Is it the mouth?
Not the mouth.
The ear?
Be
Okay.
careful with the mouth. Because what we found when one of our teachers was actually teaching this to a group of prisoners in Colorado who were working with horses, and that we do this mouth work with horses. Not one, they were all in for violent crimes. Not one could touch their own mouth.
It's interesting.
Too
You can see
traumatic. The ear you can do. It might even be a question with the heart, but you can do the arm.
Okay.
You can. This is a safe social area that they can even do on themselves. And when I've worked with women in trauma, women who are in shelters because of abuse, I just have them ask them, would they like to feel it? And I have them stand up, usually not even sitting, because in sitting they're in it. I have them circle around me, standing, so they can run, not sitting where they're vulnerable. And then I ask them, and I reach out with my hand and I said, would you care to feel this? And if they do, I have them reach their hand out, and I do this simply on their hand. Because if you've been abused,
Of course.
and the other thing is, then I would say, and wait a minute, how about if I use the back of my hand? Because they know they can't be grabbed. And that's one of the things we do with animals. You reach out, would you like to feel this? And when I'm working with them, I'm not looking directly at them. I'm standing sideways so that they have an escape way.
Okay.
Same
It's
with
very useful.
who who really want to emphasize that the person always is in control. It's, do they want to feel it? But I show it on myself first. And I'm just thinking, I did this in Australia many years ago. I don't even reach one hand to the other, because that means grab. I can use the back. And it's more fun, actually, when you're working with the kids, it's more fun to actually do the back of the hand. And you might incorporate, I'm sorry, what's your name? Who's teaching this?
Benny.
Benny, thank you, Benny. Sorry, I'm so focused on this. So it's fun. We have animal names for these different parts of the hand. So the back of the hand is called the llama touch. And you like alpacas or llamas?
Yeah.
They've seen pictures of it. Because that's how I got to be able to touch the ear of a llama the first time I ever worked with one who was really shy. Like that. And so we teach them the llama touch if they're afraid of being touched. Even to touch themselves is sometimes too much.
So back to the question of somebody who wants to bring down their violence. It's not the moment that they're violent, but it's just like preventative. If they, for instance, they learn and then they go home and they use it on a regular basis, not waiting until they start getting angry or feeling violent, but just kind of like a daily health.
Daily quarter circle is something we call it the body blessing, or we have to think of another word, but that might work in Mexico. The body blessing. You're giving thanks to every part of the body. We just go down and say thank you that I can feel. But that's where you have to work with the level that the kids are at.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think in the times that maybe I get angry with my husband, we're in a spat, and I can feel very worked up, right? And usually I'm cooking in the kitchen, so it's not good because I'm chopping with a knife, and so there's a big
dangerous,
right? like this, and I just literally stop. And that's it. But I've done this so many times,
Yes, of course,
beforehand, that I already am set and primed for it. So in the moment that I am irked and irritated beyond belief, it only takes a moment. So my suggestion is that they learn that this is creating a basis for them. They're so primed in the positive aspect, in the moments that are safe, in the times that feel right, feel good, and there's a learning and all of that. So when that moment comes where they start to feel that they're ramping up, then this is safe for them, right?
Okay.
But if there is not that background, I would go, wow, the ear work, that's like emergency. And if they feel violent, that's emergency,
Okay.
right?
And it also interrupts the pattern,
Right.
Yes.
which is really, really
See.
key. We've seen that with the animals for decades. And so we also experience and see that with humans, but it's so visual with the animals that when I've worked with fearful and reactive dogs who can get aggressive, and we've really seen how the patterns, when I say that, it's like you'll see, I was watching a horse the other day actually start to go, because he was opening his mouth and turning to bite, and he'd start and turn, and then it would interrupt in his own system. It wasn't like we were from the outside interrupting, but something starts to happen in your own internal system that brings that calming in, which is pretty extraordinary.
Great. Was don't want to say goodbye, but you've already given us a tremendous amount of your valuable time.
No, it's a pleasure. Please don't feel that way. It's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What has been driving all of us all these years is to be able to give people self-help that gets them to trust in themselves, that to know that they have something that can help themselves, empowering themselves, not feeling helpless, but feeling another sense of, and it was so beautiful because when we gave this, and we should pull that video out from South Africa, the children are fed once a day, like 50 kids come to these. We were working with 3 different caregivers, and it's these kids are alone, often in their own homes. They're going back to be alone in these little places that they live in, and this is like a hug. This is like feeling protected, and it's like I'm safe. It's a feeling. It brings a feeling of safety. So for us to be able to share this with you, this is an honor for us to be able to assist you in however that we can do this with you.
Well, it looks like we're a mutual fan club. We have a certified clinician, HeartMath clinician doctor, medical doctor, who's working in a center, and they're going to have a room for kids massage. So we will be sharing this with her, and she will be, besides doing heart coherence at the massage time, I'm sure she will be able to start getting together evidence as well, because besides you sharing with us, we want also to get this out as far and wide as possible.
Great.
So,
and this afternoon, tonight, I'm meeting Dr. Jarena Elbers. She's the new director for HeartMath Institute for their volunteer outreach program for disasters.
And she's a pediatric neurologist.
oh, great.
Yeah,
Great,
so
great.
she'll be learning this too. So,
Wow.
I want to say, Linda, thank you for making this possible. Sandy, what an amazing gift that you're here.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And to be able to meet with all 3 of you, that you're creating Cor-Inte, right? From the heart and the mind, and that you're learning the soul of the touch, and that you're taking it into the world to make a difference. So it is powerful. Oof, my hair just stood on end. That's not easy for short hair, but so thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Let us
Take
know.
care.
We would really appreciate feedback.
Of course.
And
We will keep in touch.
And I will send you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Ah.